Hey soul lovers, Lisa Marshall here, your retro soul girl and DIY producer, sharing my journey on keeping the old school sound alive. Today I'll show you how to capture the delicious analog vocal vibe of STAX Records. Think the Staple Singers, Otis Redding, early Tina Turner, using modern tools. So we're going to be using some things that are going to closely emulate in the arsenal that I have, using Universal Audio, Waves, and Logic stock plugins. This classic Stax chain often involved a mix of vintage tube preamps and compressors to warm up the vocals, but they were kind of minimalist, honestly. So we're also going to be adding reverb into this to create the natural reverb that they would use from their rooms. All right, let's get started. Okay, so let's start with our preamp. Well, actually, let's back it up for a second. Let's start with the microphone. I've got here the Mic-Avantone CV-12. I did a lot of research and found something that was rather affordable. And the CV-12 is a tube mic that provides a natural warmth and saturation, reminiscent of something that might have been used at STAX Records. A nice little silky top end and a rich low mid presence. Did a lot of research on this microphone. Highly recommend it. I call her Big Red because she is red. Can't really tell 100% because I'm in red lighting, but this is my favorite lighting for kind of getting into the mode of recording and getting my studio all kind of ready to go. Also, I just wanted to let you see it a little bit better too. This is the Mic-Avantone CV-12, as you can see, and my primary instrument is vocals, and I'm very particular about what I use to record my own vocals. So, okay, moving on. Setting up the chain. And it's kind of minimal, but we're going to talk a little bit about these settings too. It's great for me to kind of go over it and really get it in my mind as well. So thank you for taking this trip with me. Stax often involved a mix of vintage tube preamps and compressors to get that nice warm analog sound. We're going to use the 610B preamp in Universal Audio console. We're looking right here at this gain button. This is what's going to drive the tubes harder. So introducing more warmth and harmonic distortion. I'm going to keep it here at +5. I've already used this. I like the +5. That's about where we want it to be. EQ settings, I'm going to start around 70 and gently boost that because that's between 60 and 80 hertz. And that's kind of where I want to get a little warmth around my voice. This is for a female voice. This is for my voice. I tend to need a little bit more. I like that warmth in my voice and I like to bring that out. So I'm going to boost it at here about 1.5. I mean, that's your option, right? So I'm just going to do a nice little gentle boost right there. The high frequency, I'm going to set this flat because of how my voice records. I'm going to keep it flat. We're going to check it out, see if I need to add like a little sparkle on top. We're going to set the line here at 500 ohms for a warmer, more vintage tone. We're going to ensure that this level, something that's going to run the sound over the tubes and give us that nice, delicious color. In and out switch. The in position activates the preamp's EQ section. So allowing that kind of whatever you set in those frequencies to shape the tonal characteristics of the signal. The out position is going to bypass that EQ. So the pad selector that attenuates the input signal or lowers the input signal before it reaches the preamp stage. It prevents the signal overload and distortion when recording high output sources. I'm just going to leave it here on pad. I'm not going to go to the -15. So this is something you might want to consider if you're getting some distortion flipping that up to the -15 and see how that does you. The level button, we went between 6 and 7. I'm going right up to 7 because why not? This output setting, 11 o'clock or something like that. We'll start there. We will do a trial run on this recording as well. Now we are looking at some compressors. To really nail that vintage Stax vibe, we're adding tube compressors, the Fairchild 670. This is one of my favorite compressors. I love the color that it gives everything. I use it in my mix bus as well. This legendary piece of gear was often used to smooth out and glue the vocals together. So giving that buttery sound, I love it. Let's take a look at the settings that we're going to be using for the Fairchild 670. We're going to kind of go into depth a little bit on this compressor, but let's start here on this input gain channel here. We're going to stick between 3 and 4. I'm just going to hop on 4 here. For the time constant, I'm going to go ahead for 3 because it gives you just kind of a smooth response. 4 will give you a little tighter, faster sound. This DC bias down here, we're going to put this on the CAL mode. You see we're just turning this little screw here. This mode is calibration mode. Probably the best for recording scenarios, especially female vocals in a Stax style. It's a more clean control compression without distortion or unwanted artifacts. The overwrite mode is for a little more gritty, saturated textures, which just experiment with. I'm going to start here on the calibration mode. A more warm, natural compression, Stax clarity. Sidechain filter. What this basically is going to do is going to prevent the compression from being triggered by low frequencies. Pretty important for vocals in general. And so we're going to set this between 100 and 150. And the mix here, we're going to mix the signal here at about 50% wet, 50% dry. The link switch, we're going to leave the controls linked. This is good for mono vocal tracking, which we're doing, which I plan on doing, which is, you know, in line with that Stax vibe. We're going to come back and we'll mess with the threshold. The EQP-1A is such a powerful EQ that you can just tell a difference when you just put it on there. I'm just going to leave it with nothing on at the moment. I find the best practice is to try to get things to kind of situate in the track as best as you can from the get-go. Having said that, doing a little test run, doing a little test on your vocal and seeing like, do I need a little more clarity? Do I need a little bit more, I don't know, boost around, maybe 100K or something like that, which typically happens a lot for female vocals in that Stax soul era. So that's why I'm just going to have this ready, but right now I'm just going to let the signal run through it. We're going to go here to the sends. And you can see over here, I've got the pure plate over here. Now, I've also got it on post, and I've muted it just so I can talk without the reverb being on. I like reverb when I record. The cool thing about this is that I can have this on post, and it is not going to record it into my track. Now, you can record it if you just hit pre. That will record the reverb, which if you got a nice sounding dialed in reverb and it sounds kind of like a room, or you're trying to emulate a room, go for it, man. All right, so now you can hear I've got quite a bunch of reverb going on here because I love reverb. We're going to mess with the threshold here of the compressor. It's bigger than all of this, and I hope that we will try. Please don't give your please don't give your hope away. It's bigger than all this, and so you notice I'm backing away from the microphone. This is a bit bigger of a vocal part for me. So normally you want to stand, they always say kind of do this with a microphone, about 6 inches, even just for the I'm pretty sure I think life is beautiful. Right? So you still want even that kind of distance on just the lower parts. But for me, when I get into my bigger parts, I'm going to step back. Please don't give your hope away. It's bigger than all of this and I. Okay, so I am clipping, as you can see right here. I'm clipping a little bit. So I'm going to come over here to the output on my preamp, and I'm going to dial that back a little bit. Please don't give your hope away. It's bigger than all. Woo! It's bigger than all. Bigger than all this and that. I want that to hit between 2 and 4, minus 2 and 4 dBs on the compressor. That's what I'm looking for. Somewhere between here and here is where I want it to hit. All right, let's listen to this. Already you can see here this first track is without those plugins. And you can see just even in the beginning here, like the waveforms aren't as strong on the verses. So let's just give it a listen and see if we can hear some of the subtle difference. All these fears I held inside, I didn't realize you were mine. And the dreams we shared so deep, what a thing you and me. But now I know, yeah, I can't let it go. Yeah. Please let me be the love, oh, the love, oh, love. Oh, love. Let me fall, let me fall. Oh, let me fall. Not bad. I mean, but I think you're going to hear a subtle difference of a little more tonality, a little more color, a little harmonics on the vocal on this next line with the plugins. I'm going to use the Waves Kramer Master Tape because it is actually modeled after the vintage Ampex 350 that was used in some of the Stax recordings. So let's talk about the settings real quick on this, and we'll go ahead and play back vocal after we get this kind of dialed in and get some of the settings that they would have on that tape machine. So we're going to leave the tape speed at about 15 inches per second. This is kind of a balanced frequency response with a little bit more low end warmth. Bias, we're going to go over. It was calibrated to allow a little more high frequency presence, which is great for cutting through a mix when I'm going to be adding strings and horns as well. I would suggest just putting it directly on your track so you can use that mono sound on the tape. Now the wow and flutter, generally not on vocals, perhaps on the mix bus and guitars. So we're going to go ahead and turn that down here. Everything else, feedback off, noise off. Don't really need that on. All right, let's give this a try. Let's see what we got here on this. All these fears I held inside, I didn't realize you were mine. And the dreams we shared so deep, what a thing you and me. But now I know, yeah, I can't let it go. Yeah. Please let me be the love, oh, love, oh, love. Oh, love. Let me fall, oh, let me fall. Oh, let me fall. You can just hear a little more clarity. There's a little more coloration on the vocal. It's a little smoother as far as that dynamics are concerned. And you know, this is just a one take off the vocal anyway, but I wanted you to be able to hear the dynamic between a verse and then going into a bigger chorus. So, I hope this helped a little bit on the Stax chain. Okay, reverb. Generally, it was the EMT 140 plate reverb that was used at STAX Records. I am just using, at the moment, I'm using the plate reverb from UA. All right, you guys, hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it helped. I'm going to put this information, at least the chain, in the description of this video. So please go ahead and grab that if you're interested. And don't forget to like and subscribe and follow me for more tips and tricks